During the Cold War, the United States was embroiled in a global struggle for influence and power. Behind the scenes, the CIA launched a secret operation that aimed to control and manipulate the media. This covert mission, known as Operation Mockingbird, sought to influence public opinion and advance American interests. Join us as we uncover the facts and hear from those who witnessed this shadowy chapter in American history. Operation Mockingbird's origins are deeply rooted in the geopolitical and ideological struggles of the Cold War, a period marked by intense rivalry between the United States and the Soviet Union. To understand how and why the CIA initiated such an extensive covert operation, we must first delve into the broader context of post-World War II international relations, the rise of communism, and the United States' determination to counter Soviet influence globally. The end of World War II saw the emergence of the United States and the Soviet Union as the world's two superpowers, each promoting vastly different political and economic systems. The US championed capitalism and democratic governance, while the Soviet Union sought to expand communism. This ideological clash, known as the Cold War, led to a pervasive atmosphere of suspicion, fear, and competition, which would dominate global politics for nearly half a century. In the late 1940s, as the Cold War began to take shape, the United States was deeply concerned about the spread of communism, particularly in Europe and Asia. The Soviet Union had established a series of satellite states in Eastern Europe, and communist parties were gaining strength in countries like Italy and France. In Asia, the Chinese Civil War culminated in the communist victory of Mao Zedong in 1949, further alarming American policymakers. The U.S. response to these developments was multifaceted, involving military alliances like NATO, economic aid programs such as the Marshall Plan, and crucially, the expansion of intelligence operations to counter Soviet influence. The Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, established in 1947 with the National Security Act, became a key instrument in the U.S. strategy to combat communism. The CIA was tasked with gathering intelligence, conducting covert operations, and influencing foreign governments and public opinion in favor of American interests. Under the leadership of its first director, Allen Dulles, the CIA quickly grew in scope and capability, developing a network of agents and assets around the world. One of the primary concerns of the CIA during this period was the power of the Soviet propaganda machine. The Soviet Union had a well-organized and effective system for disseminating its ideological messages through various media channels, including newspapers, radio, and films. Soviet propaganda aimed to promote communism, discredit the United States and its allies, and sway public opinion in favor of Soviet policies. In response, the CIA sought to develop its own means of countering Soviet propaganda and promoting American viewpoints. It was within this context that Operation Mockingbird was conceived. The goal of the operation was to influence the media and shape public perception by infiltrating major news organizations, recruiting journalists, and using them to disseminate pro-American narratives. The operation began in the late 1940s and quickly expanded under the directorship of Allen Dulles, who saw the control of information as a crucial front in the Cold War. The recruitment of journalists and media professionals was a key component of Operation Mockingbird. The CIA approached individuals working in various media outlets, offering them financial incentives, access to exclusive information, and, in some cases, ideological appeals to their patriotism. These journalists were tasked with writing stories that aligned with CIA objectives, promoting narratives that favored American interests and suppressing information that could be damaging. The agency also placed its own operatives within news organizations to directly influence editorial decisions and ensure that the desired narratives were promoted. The scope of Operation Mockingbird was vast, encompassing major newspapers, magazines, radio stations, and television networks. By the early 1950s, the CIA had established a significant presence within some of the most influential media outlets in the United States. These included renowned publications such as the New York Times, the Washington Post, and Time magazine. The agency's reach extended beyond print media, infiltrating radio programs and television broadcasts to ensure a consistent pro-American message across all major channels of communication. Hollywood also became a target of Operation Mockingbird. The CIA recognized the power of film and television in shaping public opinion and cultural norms. By influencing the content produced in Hollywood, the agency aimed to promote American values, portray communism in a negative light, and reinforce the ideological divide between the United States and the Soviet Union. Filmmakers and producers were encouraged to create movies and TV shows that reflected these themes, subtly weaving pro-American messages into popular entertainment. As Operation Mockingbird expanded, it became a sophisticated and multifaceted operation. The CIA developed various methods to exert influence over the media. Some journalists were paid directly to write stories that aligned with the agency's objectives, while others were provided with classified information to shape their reporting. In many cases, the agency's involvement was covert, with journalists and media executives unaware of the true source of the information they were receiving. This clandestine approach allowed the CIA to manipulate the media without arousing suspicion or attracting public scrutiny. The effectiveness of Operation Mockingbird lay in its ability to control the flow of information and shape public perception. By influencing what stories were reported and how they were presented, the CIA could ensure that American interests were always portrayed in a favorable light. This control extended to international media as well, with the agency working to disseminate pro-American narratives in foreign countries and counter Soviet propaganda efforts. However, the ethical implications of Operation Mockingbird were significant. The manipulation of the media by a government agency raised serious questions about the integrity of journalism and the independence of the press. The covert nature of the operation meant that the public was unaware of the extent to which their news was being influenced by the CIA. This lack of transparency undermined the fundamental principles of a free and independent press, which are essential for a functioning democracy. The secrecy surrounding Operation Mockingbird also meant that its full extent and impact were not widely known until decades later. It was only in the 1970s, during the Church Committee hearings, that the extent of the CIA's media manipulation efforts began to come to light. The revelations shocked the public and led to significant scrutiny of the agency's activities. The Church Committee, led by Senator Frank Church, conducted a thorough investigation into the CIA's covert operations, uncovering a wide range of abuses and excesses. The committee's findings prompted calls for greater oversight and accountability of intelligence agencies. In conclusion, the origins of Operation Mockingbird are deeply intertwined with the geopolitical and ideological struggles of the Cold War. The CIA's efforts to infiltrate and influence the media were part of a broader strategy to counter Soviet propaganda and promote American interests. While the operation was effective in shaping public perception and advancing U.S. objectives, it also raised significant ethical concerns and highlighted the potential dangers of government manipulation of the media. The legacy of Operation Mockingbird serves as a reminder of the importance of a free and independent press and the need for transparency and accountability in intelligence operations. Operation Mockingbird's effectiveness was rooted in the CIA's ability to develop and deploy a range of sophisticated mechanisms to exert influence over the media. These mechanisms were multifaceted, involving direct financial incentives, covert collaborations, and the strategic use of classified information. This chapter delves deeply into the various ways the CIA managed to infiltrate and manipulate the media, ensuring that pro-American narratives were promoted while suppressing those that might undermine U.S. interests. The recruitment of journalists was a cornerstone of Operation Mockingbird. The CIA targeted individuals working in prominent media outlets, selecting those who were influential and had a wide reach. The agency used various methods to bring these journalists into their fold. Financial incentives were often a significant lure, with journalists receiving payments in exchange for writing articles that aligned with CIA objectives. In some cases, these payments were substantial enough to ensure the journalists' loyalty and cooperation. Beyond financial incentives, the CIA also offered exclusive access to information. Journalists were provided with classified or otherwise unavailable information that could make their reporting more compelling and authoritative. This exclusive access not only enhanced the journalist's reputation and career, but also ensured that the stories they wrote promoted the narratives the CIA wanted to disseminate. This quid pro quo relationship created a mutually beneficial arrangement that was difficult for many journalists to resist. In addition to recruiting individual journalists, the CIA also sought to infiltrate editorial positions within major media organizations. By placing operatives or collaborating with sympathetic editors, the agency could exert influence over the editorial direction of entire publications. These editors played a crucial role in deciding which stories were published and how they were framed. By ensuring that key editorial positions were aligned with CIA objectives, the agency could control the overarching narrative presented to the public. Operation Mockingbird extended its influence beyond print media to include radio and television. Radio programs were particularly significant during the early years of the Cold War, as they reached a broad and diverse audience. The CIA collaborated with radio producers and hosts to develop programs that subtly promoted pro-American messages. These programs often presented themselves as unbiased news or cultural broadcasts, but they were carefully crafted to sway public opinion in favor of U.S. policies. Television, which became an increasingly dominant medium in the 1950s and 1960s, was another critical target for the CIA. The agency worked with television producers and networks to influence the content of news broadcasts and entertainment shows. News programs were provided with scripts and storylines that emphasized American values and depicted communism in a negative light. Even popular entertainment shows and movies were not immune to the CIA's influence. Hollywood producers were encouraged to create content that reflected pro-American themes and supported the broader ideological struggle against communism. One of the most effective mechanisms of Operation Mockingbird was the use of propaganda assets within the media. These assets were individuals who, knowingly or unknowingly, disseminated information provided by the CIA. The agency would often use front organizations or intermediaries to provide these assets with the desired information, ensuring that the true source remained hidden. This method allowed the CIA to influence the media without direct attribution, maintaining the appearance of independent journalism. The strategic use of classified information was another critical tool in Operation Mockingbird's arsenal. The CIA had access to a vast array of intelligence and information that was not available to the public or even other branches of government. By selectively leaking this information to journalists, the agency could shape the news cycle and public discourse. These leaks were carefully timed and crafted to maximize their impact, ensuring that they supported broader U.S. strategic objectives. One notable example of this tactic was the dissemination of information related to Soviet activities and intentions. By providing journalists with classified intelligence on Soviet actions, the CIA could create a sense of urgency and threat that justified U.S. policies and military actions. This method not only shaped public opinion, but also influenced policymakers, creating a feedback loop that reinforced the CIA's strategic goals. The manipulation of the media was not limited to domestic audiences. Operation Mockingbird also targeted international media outlets to promote American interests abroad. The CIA worked with foreign journalists and media organizations to disseminate pro-American narratives and counter Soviet propaganda. This international dimension of the operation was critical in the global ideological struggle of the Cold War, as it helped to shape perceptions of the United States and its policies around the world. The ethical implications of these mechanisms were significant. The covert nature of Operation Mockingbird meant that the public was unaware of the extent to which their news was being influenced by a government agency. This lack of transparency undermined the fundamental principles of a free and independent press, which are essential for a functioning democracy. The manipulation of the media by the CIA raised serious questions about the integrity of journalism and the boundaries of intelligence operations. In addition to ethical concerns, the effectiveness of Operation Mockingbird also led to practical challenges. The extensive network of journalists and media professionals involved in the operation required significant resources and coordination. Maintaining secrecy and managing the relationships between the CIA and its media assets was a complex and delicate task. Any leaks or revelations about the operation could have had serious consequences, not only for the agency's credibility, but also for the journalists involved. Despite these challenges, Operation Mockingbird remained a highly effective tool for the CIA throughout the early Cold War years. The ability to control the flow of information and shape public perception was a powerful asset in the ideological battle against the Soviet Union. The operation demonstrated the extent to which the media could be used as an instrument of state power, influencing not only public opinion, but also international relations and policy decisions. The long-term impact of Operation Mockingbird on American journalism and public trust cannot be overstated. The revelations about the operation, which began to emerge in the 1970s, shocked the public and led to significant scrutiny of the CIA's activities. The Church Committee hearings were instrumental in uncovering the extent of the CIA's media manipulation efforts, leading to calls for greater oversight and accountability of intelligence agencies. These hearings exposed the ethical breaches and abuses of power that had characterized Operation Mockingbird, prompting a broader conversation about the role of the media and the limits of government influence. In conclusion, the mechanisms of influence employed in Operation Mockingbird were diverse and sophisticated, allowing the CIA to exert significant control over the media and shape public perception. Through the recruitment of journalists, infiltration of editorial positions, strategic use of classified information, and manipulation of both domestic and international media, the agency was able to promote pro-American narratives and counter Soviet propaganda. While effective, these methods raised serious ethical concerns and highlighted the potential dangers of government manipulation of the media. The legacy of Operation Mockingbird serves as a cautionary tale about the importance of a free and independent press and the need for transparency and accountability in intelligence operations. The scope and scale of Operation Mockingbird were extensive, reflecting the CIA's deep commitment to controlling information and shaping public perception during the Cold War. This chapter delves into the breadth of the operation, examining its reach across different media platforms, the extent of its network, and the impact it had on journalism and public discourse. At the height of Operation Mockingbird, the CIA had established a significant presence within some of the most influential media outlets in the United States. The agency's network of journalists, editors, and media executives extended across major newspapers, magazines, radio stations, and television networks. By the 1950s and 1960s, the CIA's influence was deeply entrenched in the American media landscape. Major newspapers were primary targets for the CIA due to their wide readership and influence on public opinion. Publications such as the New York Times, the Washington Post, and the Wall Street Journal were infiltrated at various levels. Journalists working for these esteemed newspapers were recruited to write stories that aligned with CIA objectives, often receiving payments and exclusive information in return. Editors, some of whom were on the CIA's payroll, ensured that the narratives promoted by the agency were given prominence, while stories that could undermine U.S. interests were suppressed or downplayed. The CIA's influence was not limited to the print media. Magazines with significant reach, such as Time, Life, and Newsweek, were also part of the agency's network. These publications played a crucial role in shaping public perception by providing in-depth analyses and features on international events. The CIA worked closely with editors and writers at these magazines to craft stories that advanced American foreign policy objectives and countered Soviet propaganda. Articles were often designed to highlight the threats posed by communism and to underscore the moral and ideological superiority of the United States. Radio, as one of the most pervasive forms of media during the early Cold War period, was another critical platform for the CIA's efforts. The agency collaborated with radio producers and hosts to develop programs that subtly promoted pro-American messages. These programs were presented as unbiased news or cultural broadcasts, but were carefully crafted to sway public opinion in favor of U.S. policies. Radio Free Europe and Radio Liberty, ostensibly independent stations broadcasting to Eastern Europe and the Soviet Union, were actually funded and controlled by the CIA, spreading anti-communist content to audiences behind the Iron Curtain. Television, which became the dominant medium by the 1960s, was also targeted by Operation Mockingbird. The CIA understood the immense power of television to influence public opinion and cultural norms. The agency worked with television networks to ensure that news broadcasts and entertainment shows reflected American values and vilified the communist enemy. News programs were provided with scripts and storylines that emphasized the dangers of communism and the necessity of American intervention. Even popular TV shows and movies were influenced, with filmmakers and producers encouraged to create content that depicted the U.S. favorably and the Soviet Union negatively. The Hollywood film industry was a particularly influential target. The CIA recognized that movies could reach vast audiences and leave lasting impressions. Through its connections in Hollywood, the agency promoted films that aligned with its ideological goals. Classic Cold War-era films, such as The Manchurian Candidate and Dr. Strangelove, contained anti-communist themes and reflected the anxieties and tensions of the era. By influencing the content of these films, the CIA was able to shape public attitudes towards communism and reinforce the ideological divide between the United States and the Soviet Union. The international dimension of Operation Mockingbird was equally significant. The CIA worked to disseminate pro-American narratives in foreign countries, countering Soviet propaganda efforts and promoting U.S. interests abroad. The agency established relationships with foreign journalists and media organizations, providing them with information and resources to publish stories favorable to the United States. This global network extended to Europe, Latin America, Asia, and Africa, ensuring that American viewpoints were promoted in key regions around the world. One of the most effective aspects of Operation Mockingbird was the use of propaganda assets within the media. These assets were individuals who, knowingly or unknowingly, disseminated information provided by the CIA. The agency often used front organizations or intermediaries to provide these assets with the desired information, maintaining the appearance of independent journalism. This method allowed the CIA to manipulate the media without direct attribution, ensuring that the public remained unaware of the agency's involvement. The strategic use of classified information was another critical tool. The CIA had access to a vast array of intelligence and information that was not available to the public or other branches of government. By selectively leaking this information to journalists, the agency could shape the news cycle and public discourse. These leaks were carefully timed and crafted to maximize their impact, ensuring that they supported broader U.S. strategic objectives. For example, by providing journalists with classified intelligence on Soviet activities, the CIA could create a sense of urgency and threat that justified U.S. policies and military actions. The scope and scale of Operation Mockingbird had significant ethical implications. A government agency manipulating the media raised serious questions about the integrity of journalism and the independence of the press. The operation's covert nature meant that the public was unaware of the extent to which the CIA was influencing their news. This lack of transparency undermined the fundamental principles of a free and independent press, essential for a functioning democracy. The potential for misinformation and biased reporting compounded the ethical concerns. Journalists and editors, influenced by the CIA, may have presented distorted or one-sided views of events, leading to a misinformed public. This manipulation not only affected domestic audiences, but also had international repercussions, shaping global perceptions of the United States and its foreign policies. Despite these ethical issues, Operation Mockingbird was highly effective in achieving its goals. The ability to control the flow of information and shape public perception was a powerful asset in the ideological battle against the Soviet Union. The operation demonstrated the extent to which the media could be used as an instrument of state power, influencing not only public opinion, but also international relations and policy decisions. The long-term impact of Operation Mockingbird on American journalism and public trust cannot be overstated. The revelations about the operation, which began to emerge in the 1970s, shocked the public and led to significant scrutiny of the CIA's activities. The Church Committee hearings were instrumental in uncovering the extent of the CIA's media manipulation efforts, leading to calls for greater oversight and accountability of intelligence agencies. These hearings exposed the ethical breaches and abuses of power that had characterized Operation Mockingbird, prompting a broader conversation about the role of the media and the limits of government influence. The Church Committee, led by Senator Frank Church, conducted a thorough investigation into the CIA's covert operations, uncovering a wide range of abuses and excesses. The committee's findings revealed the extent to which the agency had infiltrated the media, using it as a tool for propaganda and manipulation. These revelations prompted calls for greater transparency and accountability, leading to significant changes in how intelligence operations were conducted. In response to the Church Committee's findings, the CIA claimed to have ended its direct involvement with the media. However, the legacy of Operation Mockingbird continued to cast a long shadow over American journalism. The operation highlighted the potential for government overreach and the importance of maintaining a free and independent press. The ethical concerns raised by Operation Mockingbird continue to be relevant today, emphasizing the need for vigilance in protecting the integrity of the media and ensuring that it serves the public interest. In conclusion, the scope and scale of Operation Mockingbird were vast, reflecting the CIA's deep commitment to controlling information and shaping public perception during the Cold War. Through the recruitment of journalists, infiltration of editorial positions, strategic use of classified information, and manipulation of both domestic and international media, the agency was able to promote pro-American narratives and counter-Soviet propaganda. While effective, these methods raised significant ethical concerns and highlighted the potential dangers of government manipulation of the media. The legacy of Operation Mockingbird serves as a cautionary tale about the importance of a free and independent press and the need for transparency and accountability in intelligence operations. The exposure and aftermath of Operation Mockingbird marked a significant turning point in the history of American intelligence and media. The revelations about the CIA's covert manipulation of the media came to light in the 1970s, a period already rife with distrust and disillusionment with government institutions. This chapter explores how the operation was exposed, the subsequent public and political reactions, and the long-lasting implications for both the intelligence community and the media industry. The secrets of Operation Mockingbird began to unravel during the early 1970s, a decade marked by increasing skepticism towards the U.S. government. The Vietnam War, the Watergate scandal, and other controversies had already eroded public trust. It was in this climate of growing scrutiny and demands for accountability that the activities of the CIA came under closer examination. The Church Committee, formerly known as the United States Senate Select Committee, to study governmental operations with respect to intelligence activities, played a crucial role in exposing the CIA's involvement with the media. Led by Senator Frank Church, the committee was established in 1975 to investigate abuses by the CIA, the FBI, and other intelligence agencies. The committee's mandate was broad, encompassing a wide range of covert activities, including domestic spying, assassination plots, and the manipulation of the media. As the Church Committee delved into the operations of the CIA, it uncovered extensive evidence of the agency's efforts to influence the media through Operation Mockingbird. Testimonies from former CIA officers, journalists, and media executives revealed the depth and breadth of the operation. The committee learned how the CIA had recruited journalists, placed operatives within news organizations, and provided classified information to shape news coverage. One of the most damning revelations was the extent to which the CIA had infiltrated major American media outlets. Testimonies and documents showed that the agency had relationships with journalists and editors at prominent newspapers, magazines, radio stations, and television networks. These relationships were often covert, with many journalists unaware that the information they were receiving was part of a CIA operation. The revelations confirmed that the agency had been able to shape public perception by controlling the flow of information. The church committee hearings were broadcast on television, bringing the details of Operation Mockingbird into the living rooms of millions of Americans. The public reaction was one of shock and outrage. People were stunned to learn that the media, which they relied upon for unbiased news, had been manipulated by a government agency. The revelations undermined confidence in the press and fueled a broader sense of mistrust towards government institutions. In response to the Church Committee's findings, the CIA claimed to have ended its direct involvement with the media. Agency officials acknowledged that some of the activities had gone too far and promised reforms to prevent such abuses in the future. The CIA's new director at the time, George H.W. Bush, assured the public and Congress that the agency would no longer engage in the manipulation of the media. However, skepticism remained, with many questioning whether the reforms would be sufficient to prevent future abuses. The impact of the Church Committee's revelations extended beyond the CIA to the broader intelligence community. The hearings highlighted the need for greater oversight and accountability of intelligence agencies. Congress responded by passing legislation to curb the excesses of the intelligence community and to ensure that its activities were conducted within the bounds of the law. The Intelligence Oversight Act of 1980, for example, established permanent intelligence oversight committees in both the House and Senate, tasked with monitoring the activities of the CIA and other intelligence agencies. The exposure of Operation Mockingbird also had a profound impact on the media industry. Journalists and media organizations faced a crisis of credibility. The revelations raised serious questions about the integrity of journalism and the independence of the press. In the wake of the scandal, media organizations undertook internal reviews to identify any remaining CIA influence and to reinforce ethical standards. Many news organizations implemented stricter guidelines to ensure the separation of journalism from government influence. The fallout from Operation Mockingbird contributed to a broader movement within journalism towards greater transparency and accountability. The profession experienced a renewed emphasis on investigative reporting and a commitment to uncovering the truth, regardless of political pressures. Journalists became more vigilant in scrutinizing government actions and more skeptical of information provided by official sources. This period saw the rise of high-profile investigative journalists who played crucial roles in uncovering government misconduct, such as Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein, whose reporting on the Watergate scandal had already set a high standard for investigative journalism. Despite the promises of reform and the efforts to rebuild trust, the legacy of Operation Mockingbird continued to cast a long shadow over American journalism. The public remained wary of potential government influence over the media, and conspiracy theories about ongoing manipulation persisted. The revelations about the CIA's activities reinforced the importance of maintaining a free and independent press as a cornerstone of democracy. The exposure of Operation Mockingbird also had international repercussions. The CIA's manipulation of the media was not limited to the United States. It had also targeted foreign media outlets to promote American interests abroad. The revelations about these activities damaged the United States' reputation globally and contributed to a perception of the U.S. as a manipulative and untrustworthy actor on the world stage. The incident highlighted the ethical dilemmas inherent in intelligence operations and the potential for such activities to backfire diplomatically. The broader implications of Operation Mockingbird continue to resonate today. The operation serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of government overreach and the importance of maintaining clear boundaries between the state and the media. The ethical breaches and abuses of power revealed by the Church Committee underscored the need for robust oversight mechanisms to prevent similar abuses in the future. In the years since the exposure of Operation Mockingbird, the relationship between the intelligence community and the media has remained a subject of debate and concern. While formal collaborations like those of the past may have ended, the potential for covert influence and manipulation persists. The rise of digital media and the proliferation of information sources have created new challenges for ensuring the integrity of journalism. Social media platforms, in particular, have become battlegrounds for disinformation and propaganda, raising questions about how to safeguard the public's access to accurate and unbiased information. The legacy of Operation Mockingbird also highlights the ongoing importance of journalistic ethics and standards. In an era of increasing polarization and misinformation, the principles of transparency, accountability, and independence are more critical than ever. Journalists and media organizations must remain vigilant in upholding these principles to protect the integrity of their profession and to serve the public interest. In conclusion, the exposure and aftermath of Operation Mockingbird marked a significant turning point in the history of American intelligence and media. The revelations about the CIA's covert manipulation efforts shocked the public, undermined trust in both the government and the press, and led to significant reforms. The Church Committee's investigation highlighted the need for greater oversight and accountability of intelligence agencies and reinforced the importance of a free and independent press. The legacy of Operation Mockingbird continues to serve as a reminder of the potential dangers of government overreach and the enduring importance of ethical journalism. Operation Mockingbird's legacy and implications extend far beyond the immediate revelations of the Church Committee in the 1970s. The exposure of this covert CIA operation had profound and lasting effects on American society, journalism, the intelligence community, and international relations. This chapter explores these broad and enduring implications, examining how the operation reshaped the landscape of media and government interactions, influenced public trust, and left an indelible mark on the principles of democracy and transparency. One of the most significant impacts of Operation Mockingbird was the profound erosion of public trust in both the media and the government. The revelation that the CIA had manipulated news stories and influenced major media outlets undermined the public's confidence in the credibility of the press. The media, which many Americans had trusted to provide unbiased and accurate information, was now seen as potentially compromised and untrustworthy. This breach of trust had a lasting effect, fostering a climate of skepticism and cynicism towards both the press and government institutions. The erosion of trust was further compounded by the broader context of the 1970s, a decade marked by numerous scandals and controversies. The Watergate scandal, which led to the resignation of President Richard Nixon in 1974, had already shaken the public's faith in government integrity. The concurrent revelations about the CIA's domestic surveillance activities, assassination plots, and other covert operations only intensified the sense of disillusionment. Together, these events contributed to a widespread perception of government corruption and deceit, influencing public attitudes for decades to come. The exposure of Operation Mockingbird also had significant implications for the field of journalism. The ethical breaches revealed by the operation highlighted the importance of maintaining a clear separation between journalism and government influence. In response to the scandal, many news organizations undertook internal reviews to identify any remaining CIA influence and to reinforce ethical standards. These reviews led to the implementation of stricter guidelines designed to ensure the independence and integrity of journalism. Journalists and media organizations became more vigilant in scrutinizing government actions and more skeptical of information provided by official sources. The emphasis on investigative journalism increased, with reporters committed to uncovering the truth and holding those in power accountable. This period saw the rise of prominent investigative journalists who played crucial roles in exposing government misconduct and championing transparency. The legacy of this renewed emphasis on investigative journalism can be seen in subsequent high-profile exposés, such as the Iran-Contra affair and the more recent revelations by WikiLeaks and Edward Snowden. The fallout from Operation Mockingbird also contributed to broader legislative and institutional changes aimed at increasing oversight and accountability of the intelligence community. The Church Committee's findings prompted Congress to pass significant reforms designed to curb the excesses of the intelligence agencies and ensure that their activities were conducted within the bounds of the law. One of the most notable legislative responses was the Intelligence Oversight Act of 1980, which established permanent intelligence oversight committees in both the House and Senate. These committees were tasked with monitoring the activities of the CIA and other intelligence agencies, providing a check on their power and ensuring greater transparency. The reforms also included the establishment of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, FISA, in 1978, which created a legal framework for the surveillance of foreign intelligence targets within the United States. The FISA Court was established to review and approve surveillance requests, providing judicial oversight of intelligence activities. These legislative measures were designed to prevent the kind of unchecked and covert manipulation of the media revealed by Operation Mockingbird and to protect civil liberties from government overreach. Despite these reforms, the legacy of Operation Mockingbird continued to cast a long shadow over the intelligence community. The operation highlighted the ethical dilemmas inherent in intelligence work and the potential for abuses of power. It also underscored the challenges of maintaining a balance between national security interests and the protection of democratic principles. The tension between these competing priorities remains a central issue in debates about the role and oversight of intelligence agencies. The international implications of Operation Mockingbird were also significant. The CIA's manipulation of foreign media outlets to promote American interests abroad damaged the United States' reputation and contributed to a perception of the U.S. as a manipulative and untrustworthy actor on the world stage. These revelations fueled anti-American sentiment in many parts of the world and complicated diplomatic efforts. The incident highlighted the ethical and practical risks of using covert means to influence foreign public opinion and underscored the importance of transparency and ethical conduct in international relations. The broader cultural impact of Operation Mockingbird can be seen in the way it has been referenced and depicted in popular media and literature. The operation has been featured in numerous books, films, and television shows that explore themes of government secrecy, manipulation, and the struggle for truth. These cultural representations have helped to keep the memory of Operation Mockingbird alive and have contributed to ongoing public discourse about the role of the media and the limits of government power. The legacy of Operation Mockingbird also serves as a cautionary tale about the importance of maintaining a free and independent press. The operation demonstrated the dangers of government manipulation of the media and the potential consequences for democracy and public trust. In an era of increasing polarization and the proliferation of misinformation, the principles of journalistic integrity and independence are more critical than ever. Journalists and media organizations must remain vigilant in upholding these principles to protect the integrity of their profession and to serve the public interest. The rise of digital media and social media platforms has created new challenges for ensuring the integrity of journalism and protecting against covert influence. The spread of disinformation and propaganda on social media has become a significant concern, with state and non-state actors using these platforms to manipulate public opinion and disrupt democratic processes. The lessons learned from Operation Mockingbird underscore the importance of transparency, accountability, and ethical standards in addressing these challenges and safeguarding the public's access to accurate and unbiased information. In conclusion, the legacy and implications of Operation Mockingbird are profound and far-reaching, influencing American society, journalism, the intelligence community, and international relations for decades. The exposure of the operation marked a turning point, prompting significant reforms and fostering a renewed emphasis on journalistic integrity and government accountability. The ethical breaches and abuses of power revealed by Operation Mockingbird continue to serve as a powerful reminder of the importance of maintaining a free and independent press and the need for robust oversight of intelligence activities. The lessons learned from this chapter in history remain relevant today, emphasizing the necessity of vigilance in protecting democratic principles and ensuring that the pursuit of national security does not come at the expense of transparency, accountability, and public trust. Operation Mockingbird remains a controversial chapter in the history of American intelligence. It serves as a powerful reminder of the importance of a free and independent press and the potential dangers of covert government influence. As we reflect on this episode, we are reminded of the need for vigilance in protecting the integrity of our media and the fundamental principles of democracy. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the shadowy world of Operation Mockingbird. If you found this story intriguing, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Stay tuned for more deep dives into the world's most compelling and controversial events.